certification you want on this list is under the associate level, AWS Certified Solutions Architect. So what happened was AWS started an educational division, and we were one of the early universities to get involved with that. And then they augmented their education division with a division focused on certification, and we became involved in that. And the rule is that in order for an institution to teach a certification with their curriculum, they require that the institution have instructors that are certified. So I had to become certified as cloud practitioner, solutions architect, developer, and operations, as well as pass the criteria that AWS Academy set for data analytics and machine learning. So I've done those things, and they now allow us at Queensborough to have access to, in the case of everything but cloud practitioner, it's about 40 hours of training. So you have access to 40 hours of training on 5 topics: architect, operations, developer, machine learning, and data analytics. And cloud practitioner is about 20 hours of training that you have. That's what's in Canvas. So the way we designed this class is primarily for you on your own to work on these, to work on the modules that we've given you for foundation, for architecting, for developing, for systems operations, for data analytics, and for machine learning. And what we do in class is enrich the material primarily by doing laboratory exercises with you, laboratory exercises that are found in your Canvas learning management system. Bear with me one moment.
Okay, so you want us now to watch the videos, sir?
Okay, so right now, no, I just want you to watch the video. I'm doing the video while we're solving the stuff. Right now, we're going to do stuff together. We're going to do one of the laboratory exercises. So right now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to walk through what you have there. Starting, let's see if we go here, let's see if I go back, we should be looking at the various foundation, various modules, courses. Let's just go to our dashboard here. So my goal for this first class is just to get everyone organized with what information you have, give you an idea of how we're going to go through it. Now, you see we have here 6 courses. We have cloud foundation, cloud architecting, cloud developing, cloud operations, machine learning, and data analytics. Those align with what we were just looking at here on this list. So cloud foundations aligns with the cloud practitioner exam. And next week, I'm going to ask the question of, and I have 43 vouchers that I'd like to give out next week to take the cloud practitioner exam. Now, you don't have to take the cloud practitioner exam next week, but I'm going to give those vouchers out next week. And once you get the voucher, you'll have access to take the exam at no cost between now and December of 2022. Between now and this December. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about who's really serious about doing this and identify about 40 people. Typically, that's what I'm expecting. It's a little bit less than 10%. We have about close to 700 people signed up for the course. Maybe see how many people are on this call right now. I have 134 people on the call right now.
So, Professor,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. So, would it be only for the cloud practitioner certification that was given?
No. Great question. So, the question is it only for the cloud practitioner? We will give you vouchers, okay, for solutions architect, systems developer. We may. Now, here's the thing. The vouchers for the specialty exams are $300. Okay. So, to give you an example, it's a $300 voucher for machine learning and data analytics. And so, we may or may not have those available. We typically have available vouchers for the associate level and foundation level. The foundation level is cloud practitioner. The associate level is solutions architect, systems developer. And what we typically ask is for you to pass. For the associate level exams, I'm going to take the practice test. And I'll pay for the practice test for you. We need to score 80% or above on the practice test for us to get the voucher on associate level exams. Next week, I'm going to look for about I have 40 exams I'm going to give out next week. Okay, I'm not going to put a condition on those. Okay. Other than your word that you're going to be serious about passing the exam. Okay. So
Sorry, I have a question.
That's it. Yeah.
The cloud practitioner. This is not foundation that.
Okay, just had a person asking me a question. I can do all of you then. Please go ahead. Person asking the question. Please go ahead.
The cloud practitioner. I understand. That has nothing to do with cloud foundation, correct?
Yes, it does. The cloud practitioner test. The cloud practitioner test is the test that is aligned with while we're having technical difficulties. I asked everyone to go to this course, AWS Cloud Foundations. I asked you to go to Cloud Foundations.
Yes, sir.
And I asked you to this course, 1449, is aligned with the cloud practitioner test.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if you already have cloud practitioner and you're interested in associate level, I put out all 6 modules so that in case a person has already passed practitioner and they were really interested in focusing on other modules, I gave you access to everything. But if you have not passed the practitioner exam, that is where your first focus should be. Now, in this class is about development. But we did not put any prerequisites. So our assumption is that before we get to AWS Academy Cloud Developing, that we're going to spend the first couple of weeks talking about topics that relate first to foundation and architecting. And then, so the first 2 to 3 weeks of this course, we're going to foundation and architecting. And then we're going to spend the rest of the time primarily on developing. And then toward the end, we'll spend some time doing data analytics and machine learning. So that's how we're going to spend our time together. The first few weeks.
So Professor, one thing about here is that the primary learning material would be the one which is studying the AWS Academy, right? So people can...
Say that again now?
I was saying the primary learning material would be the AWS Academy, isn't it?
That is correct. So consider this a flipped classroom. Where a student does most of the work outside staff. There's no way we can meaningfully teach a class in every hour twice a week. So what we'd like to give you, I'm going to give you everybody for a moment.
Yes.
So there's no way we can do this in 2 sessions, 3 hours a week, even 3 hours a long period of time. Actually, we could, but we're not going to do it that way. The reason why I say we could is this. AWS offers a 20-hour course where they teach in 21 hours, systems architect, for example, in 21 hours over 3 days. So you're doing essentially almost 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day of instruction over 3 days. That's a little tough. You're really getting banged on that. And they charge $2,000 for that. Okay. And that's, however, the interesting thing is that's the same information that you're getting in the AWS Academy Cloud Architect. We're just giving you a gentler slope to the same information. Right? The great thing is that the same AWS training department that develops the courses for the 3-day course that costs a couple of grand, they're giving us the same training material. They give AWS Academy the same training material. The whole point. We can tell me what Amazon's run rate is right now. What's Amazon's run rate? Anybody tell me what that is? 71 billion. Okay, 71 billion. That's what their run rate is. 71 billion pounds. That's their run rate for revenue for running at that pace. Fourth quarter 2022, they were up 40%. Last year they did 59 billion. What can be a constraining factor for a company like Amazon is not having the professionals available to actually help the customers that are out there. So they're working very, very hard to train people like you and I to be competent in cloud technologies. That's why they're giving us away to colleges and no course so that we can train folks. Because on a global basis, they need people who understand cloud to keep their business expanding. That can serve their customers. So they get going.
So I have a question. So I'm an Azure architect, basically. So how easy, because I know this Azure AWS is more or less equal. How easy is it?
I don't know because I don't know Azure. I could pretty much, you can tell me after the course.
I can tell you. I can because I'm an architect in my company. I'm about for Nestle. It's 100 billion. Okay, so I can manage this whole. That's why I've done this design. I live in New York, just near this university. Okay, so that's
let me tell you what I would suggest. Okay, let's do this. Ping me. You basically click on my picture, ping me. And anybody else in a similar situation. Okay, so what the gentleman is saying is that he has achieved a certification of significance in another cloud system, in this case Azure. So actually there are only 7 cloud systems in the world, huge cloud systems. Okay, that would be IBM, Oracle, Tencent, the other Chinese company, and
Alibaba.
Microsoft, AWS, Alibaba. Okay, so what he's saying is that he is a solutions architect. He's an architect. So the first thing, what I suggest you do is the following. A lot of it's going to be just a transposition of terminology. So why don't you? I would suggest that you do the AWS Academy Cloud Architecting course 1, 2, 4, 2, 4. Get through that. When you finish that, however quickly you get through it, just so that you understand the different terminology, you understand the concepts. But all of a sudden, it'll just be different. So let's talk about. Let me finish the call with you. So what I'd like you to do is, as soon as you feel that you understand the AWS approach to this, I'd like to provide you with a voucher to go take the AWS Solutions Architect certification. And even before that, you should take the cloud practitioner certification. All right. So I'm going to give out 40 vouchers next week. You should make sure that you're one of the recipients of those. You should go take the practitioner test. And that would be the same for anyone else who's also in a situation where you're working in Google Cloud or Azure or one of the others. And you understand concepts. So now I'm going to talk about concepts to the broad audience. I'm going to assume that I'm going to couch this in a way that I'm assuming that you don't have any background in cloud. So the first thing you need to know is, one, it's very important for you to learn cloud. Because it's taking over everything and it's affecting every industry. Now, you start with the basics. Cloud is about two things. It's about storage. And all of us are on electronic devices that have some type of storage mechanism in them. Perhaps you're sitting in front of a computer with a hard drive. Okay? And it's about compute. So you have storage, and then you have a microprocessor that's capable of running some program. So at the end of the day, it's all about storage and compute. Has anyone here ever heard of George Washington Carver? He's a famous.
Yes, sir.
Okay. He is famous for the work that he did in deriving products from peanut. So what I'm saying is that cloud is a lot like a peanut. On the surface, very, very, very simple and straightforward. It's just two things. In peanut, you got two things. You got meat, you got the shell, and you have the nut inside the shell. In cloud, you got two things. You got storage and you got compute. But what George Washington Carver did was he came up with 300 products. 300 products from peanut. So if you look at AWS today, you'll find that AWS has over 200 services built on.
No problem. Sorry, Scotty. Some people are raising up their hands. They have questions.
All right, so let's hold the questions till right before break. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I'll answer the questions within the next 5 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the questions and answer them. I have 201. I will answer the questions at 205. That's 3 minutes from now approximately. And then we'll take a break. Okay, so let me finish the concept. For those of you who are getting started, it's about storage and compute. And then on top of that, AWS has figured out all sorts of pre-baked solutions that you can put on top of and ways to do storage and compute. Sort of like 300 products from peanut. AWS has 200 services that are built around storage and compute and one other thing, connectivity. So what I want you to do is not feel overwhelmed if you're just getting started. It's about storing information in storage, and it's about using some type of compute capability to manipulate information. It's about storage and compute, and everything ends up being part of that theme. Well, why don't I go to the questions a little bit early, and I'll answer all the questions that we have here. So let's see. Let's go to chat. Okay, look at the questions in chat. Okay. If you put a question in chat, maybe the easiest way to handle this is why don't you just come off of mute and ask me the question. I have my hand raised. Okay, I have my hand raised. If you had just come off of mute and ask a question.
Can we, we're trying to, we can talk in the chat about a simple way to do this so that we can stop this from you and each other and frustrating each other. So we're hoping that we can use the hand raising feature and either establish like the time where we're answering questions or you calling someone, or if we have a lot of questions, I know there's like a Google Doc or something we can use where we actually
okay, so this is what I would suggest. Okay, so instead of using Google Doc, let's use Basecamp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can add a person to the class that will just monitor the chat for questions. Now, instead of using the chat here, if you click on my picture in Basecamp, I'll go to Basecamp for a minute. If when you're in Basecamp, you click on my picture, okay, it'll say ping. You hit ping, you send me a private message. Okay, I will answer everything that I get that way. That way I know you're asking me a specific question. Okay, so what I will do is, during the breaks, I will check Basecamp ping. Typically, so what we'll do is one of my plans is stop at 15 minutes to an hour each time and just deal with questions. So at 1:45, at 2:45, and at 3:45, I will stop and deal with questions until we're done with questions. How does that sound?
I think that's better, bro.
I think just like some people are like, just questions that you might have from immediately, and that was why people were thinking in the chat for this crazy reason. You know, you're not able to everything all the time. So I do think the idea of you adding a moderator sounds very helpful.
I'm going to see if we can add a moderator. I'm not sure if that's possible.
I can try to help. I'll join every class that I can. I can get. For now, I know I'll be every class. Have like 5 people that
Who is speaking now?
Brianna, my name's Brianna. But it's like, yeah, at least 5 of us can always say, like, we'll be here, we'll hire your chat, we'll be here for the chat.
No, that's very much appreciated. Let me ask. So we have taken classes before?
I've never taken this class or anything.
Okay, great. Okay, great. I appreciate that. What we'll do is, that might be the best way. So let me get back to that. I very much appreciate that.
I've already taken the cloud practitioner class too. So
Have you passed the test?
I know I really think I move forward. I've already
Okay,
started.
so here's what we'd like to do. Next Monday, I want us to have, let's see how many people are ready to move forward. If you're ready, you don't have to be ready to take it this very minute. You will have to expire and give out. It will expire in December. But I'd like for folks to really set a goal to get practitioner behind them. Now, the other thing I wanted to speak with the class about are 2 things. The first thing is competency. What you really want to focus on is becoming competent at cloud. And think of the certification as how you verify your competency. That is opposite from an attitude of, let me figure out what the right answer to all the questions are so I can pass the test. Because if you do that, you're not really employable. So my focus is on competency. And I take the approach of the certification is a verification of the competency. I don't teach necessarily the test. So I would say I'm maybe 30% focused on the passing of the test, but 70% focused on becoming competent at cloud. So and the way that we get there is we give you a lot of self-study material, and we'll spend our time together in class building things. Now, some folks that mentioned that they had their hand raised for a period of time. I'd like to, at this point, just answer all the questions that are out there. So why don't we do this? An easier chat for me to do is Campfire. So if you'll go to Campfire, in our Basecamp application, you can see on my screen, I'm going to open up Campfire in our Basecamp application. And why don't you put your questions in Campfire? It's a little bit easier for me to read, and I'll just answer every question in Campfire because you see that in Campfire. I'm going to answer every question in Campfire, so you have a choice of either writing your question in Campfire or coming over to mute and asking your question. Right, so let me phrase your question a different way. The question is, what resources am I providing you and how long do they last? That's the question I'll answer. Okay, so the resources, I'll go ahead and I'll keep, let me get my, so I can mute all. Try to keep yourselves up mute now. Try and stay handy on switching mute all if we have an issue. So I'm out here and I can probably mute all from not here, but we get to where I can mute all. That'll probably be here. Okay, here I have my mute all button ready to go facing here. Right, so the question is, what are you being provided? Okay, you're provided 6 courses. Now, what will happen is after the 29th of June, you'll still have access to all the information in these 6 courses. You'll still have, when you go to campus, you'll have these little squares with the 6 courses, okay? What you won't have, and let's do this together all, I'd like you to click on Foundation. And then once you're in Foundation, I'd like you to click on Modules. And I'm scrolling down. You see, in Module 4, you encounter your first laboratory exercise. That's called Introduction to AWS Identity and Access Management. Okay. Let's do the second lab. I want you to go to Lab 2, and I want you to select Build Your VPC and launch a web server. I'd like you to select Build Your VPC and launch a web server. So I'm going to select it. I selected it. Now, my screen will look different from yours. I think you just have something that says My Work or something like that. There's some obvious link that gets you into it. Okay. As an instructor, my interface is slightly different. But you should end up someplace with a screen something like this. And on that screen, across the top, you see the word Details, AWS, Start Lab, and Lab. I'd like you to select Start Lab. I'd like you to select Start Lab. And what that's doing is that is running a script back at AWS. Okay? The complete term for that script is a cloud formation template. Cloud formation template. So it's forming the cloud, forming cloud resources. It's part of a topic. I'll give you words that I want you to write down. So a word that I'd like you, a phrase that I'd like you to write down. This is for newer people. Okay. Infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code. So if I type in infrastructure as code, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. I need to mute someone. I'm just taking a moment to do it. Let's see. Looks like that. There we go. Infrastructure as code. So right. As code. Wiki. Now, as I mentioned, it's as simple as a peanut, but now you have these 200 variations. Do we have any musicians out there? If we have a musician, you'll know there are only 12 tones, right? 12 tones. And with 12 tones, we have all the music in the world is constructed with just 12 tones. Isn't that an amazing thing? Infrastructure as code is the process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine-readable definition files rather than physical hardware configuration or interactive configuration tools. So the point is that you can define something in some type of typically text-based document, and then something else can run that text-based document. And what happens is you have it's a set of services instead of an infrastructure of some type. That's what we're talking about. That's what infrastructure as code is. Okay, so that's something I want you to write down because that's a core concept. If I give you core concepts, if I can give you core concepts as you go through the exercises, hopefully the exercises will make more sense. So we don't want, if I need to bring a bunch of computers, if I need to put together a bunch of computers to solve a problem, I don't want to have anyone to have to physically get those computers and put them together. What I want instead is I want to just be able to run some program, and that program puts together the many pieces of the computer application, the physical things. And so here's a picture that might be helpful to start. If I type data center, Google interior. Let's see what kind of pictures we get. Go images. This is my favorite image. This is the interior of a Google data center. So what's possible is that you could layer on top of all these thousands, typically 50 to 70,000 physical computers, and many, many more virtual computers. There's a way to divide a physical computer into many, many small, what we call virtual computers. If anyone's not familiar with the concept, it's called virtualization. That's another word to write down. And right next to virtual, I'm going to give you words, and they're not tied together. I'm going to give you places to dig that are important places to dig. So I've given you infrastructure as code. I'm now giving you virtualization. And next, I'd like to give you another word, container. And next to container, put container/docker, DOCKER. The virtualization of containers are ways to divide physical hardware into multiple systems. So you have one computer. It's possible to take that one computer and have that single computer behave as multiple computers that think that's their own computer, that acts as their own set of physical hardware, but they're really not. They're subdividing. We're sort of like making an apartment building. So instead of a single dwelling house, we now have an apartment building where each apartment has its own set of keys, so it has its own security, has its own contents, has its own access rules, and so forth. It's separate and assigned. In fact, because it looks so much like an apartment, what we call that in the computer industry, and write this word down also. When I say write this word down, I'm typically talking to the person who's decided to take this class that didn't have any background at all. For the other folks that have backgrounds, it's probably just review. Another word you want to write down is tenancy. It's a word that we would use with an apartment building. A person is a tenant in the apartment. Okay, a computer can be a virtual computer is a tenant in a larger actual physical computer. Write down this next word. The next phrase is bare metal. BARE, metal, METAL. When we talk about bare metal, we're talking about the actual physical machine, not virtualized in any way. When we go in and we put a piece of software, there's another word to write down. The word is hypervisor. Hypervisor is a type of software that we put on an individual single piece of hardware computer to break it up into many smaller virtual computers, each operating on their own as if they were their own computer. Now, these are concepts that become very, very important when you start talking about cloud and cloud providers. So here in this image that you're looking at is a typical data center. This is a building that contains typically between 50,000 and 70,000 individual physical computers. However, those computers can then be divided again using a hypervisor and the process that we call virtualization. Breaking a computer into more computers in that way, there are two ways to do it. One is to share the hardware, and we use something called a hypervisor. We create virtual computers that way. Another way to do it is something called this moment, the word escaped me for a minute. I'll come back in a second. I'll get the word in a second, just escape my memory. But an example of it would be something called Docker. It's the word is container. So two ways to break a physical computer into multiple parts that are each separate and distinct, just like an apartment building. And we call that multiple dependency. Typically, when we talk about multiple dependency, we're talking about using a hypervisor to break up the computer into like an apartment building, where each resulting virtual computer thinks it's a dwelling separate unto itself, and unlike an apartment building, is unaware of the other quote-unquote apartments or other virtual machines. So whenever you divide up a physical computer, either using a virtualization technique or something like Docker and containers, okay, the resulting computer that you have left over, the little small slice of the computer now thinks it's actually its own separate computer. It's totally isolated from the other slices of computers. Now, the difference between these two approaches, one being virtualization and the other being containers, is in the case of virtualization, you place a piece of software on top of the hardware and you divide up the hardware. In the approach of a container, what you're doing is you've loaded an operating system like Windows or Linux, and then you're breaking up the operating system. So hypervisors virtualize the hardware. Containers virtualize the operating system. They both end up with the same result, where you're able to run multiple instances, and that's a good word, instances of a computer on bare metal. To make sure that in the industry we're talking about the physical computer, it's called bare metal. And so now, let me close that. So that's what a data center looks like. We talk about infrastructure as code, and we talk about me. But forget about this class is about you, not about me. Let's go back. I asked you in Foundation to start Lab 2. And right about now, you should have something called ready here. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is...
Sorry to interrupt. Could you repeat the last thing you said about loading? You were hearing us the difference between containerization and virtualization, trying to differentiate the use of Docker and ordinary virtualization. Could you repeat that sentence, please?
Sure. What I was saying, when it comes to virtualization and containers and so forth, virtualization using a hypervisor, the hypervisor sits on top of the hardware. And what you're doing is you're virtualizing the hardware. So you're dividing the memory, the CPU, and perhaps disk space between multiple instances of servers so that you could have multiple virtual servers running on a single piece of bare metal. So you have one computer running multiple operating systems. The contrast between that and a container is at the end of the day, it's the same basic result of where you've taken one computer, one piece of bare metal, and you're running multiple instances. The difference, though, is you did not use a hypervisor to break up or to divide the physical CPU cores, memory, and storage on the computer. What you did was you loaded an operating system, and then Docker, sitting on top of the operating system, virtualizes the operating system. So what that would mean is, one implication of that is if you're virtualizing the hardware, you can have multiple operating systems running on that same bare metal. So a popular virtualization software product is something called VMware. So with VMware, I could have a Windows operating system and a Linux operating system running on the same bare metal. And let's use the example, we want 10 virtual machines out of that one bare metal hardware. So if I use a hypervisor virtualization, I can have any mixture of Windows operating systems. I can run any operating system on any of those virtual machines because I virtualize the hardware. But if I'm running a container, I have Docker virtualizing the operating system. So I have an operating system running on the bare metal hardware. And sitting above that, I have Docker creating the containers. Now I'm limited to whatever the host operating system is that's running on the bare metal. So if I have Windows, I could have, in this case, we said we were going to do 10 virtual servers. I could have 10 containers. If I'm using Docker, I'm using containers. Those are essentially virtual servers. I could have 10 containers, but they would have to run Windows. If the operating system on my computer on the bare metal was Linux, it would be the same thing. Unlike using VMware, I could mix and match Windows and Linux and any other operating system. So when you do a container, you're virtualizing the operating system that's running on the bare metal. When you use Docker is what does that. When you use VMware, you're using a hypervisor approach where you're virtualizing the hardware. So all that is to understand how although we have only 50 to 70,000 servers, the fact that we don't typically, or the fact that a cloud company doesn't typically sell or rent an entire piece of bare metal to a customer, not typically. They allow the customer to pick the amount of compute that they need, or the number of virtual CPUs, and the amount of memory that they need, and the amount of hard disk storage that they need. And they create a virtual computer that in the Amazon world, the term is write this down. They allow you to create an instance. Now when we talk about instances, we're talking about virtualization and hypervisors. There are also ways to do containers. You can set up Docker in AWS and every other cloud. So we had a gentleman tell us that he was well-versed in the Azure technology. The concepts are going to be the same, just like you say, well, I drive Fords, yes, well, I drive Chevys, well, I drive Mercedes. All these vehicles are different, yet they're all the same in a way. They're commonalities, okay? Because they basically all have the same thing. They have a propulsion system. They have typically wheels on the ground. That's the interface between the medium that we travel on the ground. Unlike an airplane, medium is air, right? On a car, the medium is the road. Okay? And we're working with gravity 9.87 meters per second squared. That attaches our vehicle to the road surface medium that's traveling on. And there's some method of starting the propulsion system, typically a key ignition. There's some way of guiding the vehicle across its medium, front, back, left, right, and so forth. The steering wheel. There's some way of increasing velocity. Okay? To accelerate, to decelerate their brakes. Common things. So the person is your expert. All you need to do is figure out where the issue is the shift of driving the couple in the vehicle. Because at the end of the day, it's like 4G on Chevys. There's not a big difference, right? Google, Azure, or AWS. One key difference with AWS is because of their size. They typically are the ones leading technological innovation at this point. Okay? And typically, Google and Azure, I don't know this for sure, but I assume you know if I'm wrong, are typically taking AWS themes and building out their version of it. So AWS seems to be leading, Google and Azure seem to be following. That seems to be today. What is this? This is March 14th. I think that's how it is today. Maybe I'm wrong. You can do your own research, please. So the question was the distinction between the container and the virtualized server. Did I answer your question? I assume that I did. Right now, what I've asked you to do here is I've asked you to open this up, this laboratory exercise. And now what I'd like you to do is I'm going to take you away from this page for a moment. At the top of your screen, you see the words AWS. I want you to touch that, but don't close this window. Touch that. That should open up a pop-up. You see, I'm opening up a pop-up.
I don't have that.
Okay, so let me go back to my page that I was on here. And so, don't worry, today's the day we're going to get organized. Today's the day we're going to get organized. And I think that, I'm just double-checking this now because I'm double-checking. I think that...
Can I close this start labs?
Pardon? Yeah, start lab. Don't worry, start lab. I'm going to take a break before we catch up. I just want to make sure that I am recording this because I think I said it automatically record all of our classes. Yeah, so I am recording this. I just want to make sure, just in case I say something that's useful, we'll have a recording.
Mr. Michael, no, I have a question. It says that my lab is ready. Can I close that window and to click on AWS?
Yes, and when you do that, it's going to open up this window. Don't switch to the new console because I'll be terribly confused if you do. So that's going to give you this. Now, a question we had earlier, and that's why I bring you here. As I mentioned, during our time together, you and I and you, Professor Daniel, Professor Brian, okay, during our time together, what we want to do is to use the labs as teachable moments to review the material that you studied in the modules. So ideally, you're going to be studying the modules on your own, and then we're going to do the labs and have conversations, sort of like what we're having today. We've had a conversation about infrastructure as code being a core concept. And so all of a sudden, you can have some type of text-based file that a person has written that can be executed in some way that results in thousands of machines being configured and interconnected in a certain way. That's infrastructure as code. Okay, and then we talked about what a data center is, what it looks like, and we look at a visual of Google Data Center. We talked about that it's 50,000, 70,000 servers in the AWS world. This is why this is interesting for us. It's AWS global infrastructure. So the way that you get value out of class is that the whole course, is that you'll spend a lot of time in the AWS stuff. And then when you come to class, we're basically going to have a conversation that will help enrich what you learned so that it makes more sense. So if I go to the page of the AWS global infrastructure, let's go talk about some AWS terms. So let's look at these 8 boxes and talk about what they are. Let's start with the second box. That second box says 84 availability zones. So what an availability zone is just like that picture you saw, essentially. An availability zone is a building that has 50 to 70,000 interconnected servers. So I say, wow, okay, that's a lot of computers to plug in. It certainly is. So AWS maintains that infrastructure. And what they set up is a control system where they can, almost by the second, rent compute and storage. Remember, we're back to the peanut. And actually, I gave you 2 pieces in the peanut. Most peanuts have 1 shell and 2 nuts, right? Most peanuts. That's 3 elements, 2 actual peanuts in the shell. Here with our cloud computing, I'm pushing the analogy about computer. We have 3 elements as well. We have the compute, we have the storage, we have interconnectivity. And the interconnectivity exists with you coming into that big building with 70,000 servers, perhaps internet connectivity. So there's that connectivity involved. And there's connectivity between resources within that building that we looked at that had, as I said, 50 to 70,000 servers. An availability zone is essentially a data center. So you might ask, well, listen, if an availability zone is a data center, why just call it a data center? I say that's a great question. The reason that we call it an availability zone and not a data center is sometimes they have 2 data centers and 1 availability zone. So that's why they just call it an availability zone. It's going to be a minimum of 1 of those buildings. I showed you something like that with 50, 70,000 servers. But more importantly, it's going to have the majority of the 200 services available in AWS. So what those services are, we'll start exploring them a little bit at a time. By the way, anybody who has a start lab, make sure you click start lab. We'll need it a little bit. So an availability zone is where the physical resource of data center, so it has the compute and storage in there, and connectivity of the pieces within the data center, connectivity to things outside the data center. So now, since AWS has 84 availability zones, you can imagine that they would be connected in some way using AWS's own physical connection. So we would call that the AWS backbone, okay? As opposed to the internet. So if I'm sending information between 2 AWS data centers, I do not need to use the public internet. There's an AWS backbone that connects everything. So when you think of availability zone, it's okay in your mind, think of it as that data center that I showed you. It's essentially a $1 billion building that has 50, 70,000 servers that's configured to provide the 200 AWS services. Then to the left of that square, there's the term region. A region is 2 or more availability zones. The first region was US East 1 down in Virginia, where they have 6 availability zones. Okay, now I'm at 41. All this concept, here. Okay, let's talk about the concept of local zones and wavelength zones. Those are going to be smaller data centers that don't have all 200 services, but have some key services that they found customers find helpful, which we won't go into describing. But just know that there's a subset of the 200 services that you find in the availability zone in the smaller local zones and wavelength zones. Now let's talk about what a local zone is. I think the first one was in Los Angeles because they started to do a lot with the film industry. The gang in the film industry said, we're shooting digital now, and that means we have huge amounts of data. And your facility here at AWS, your West Coast facility, is located up in well north of Los Angeles, San Francisco, Washington State area. And it takes us a little bit of time to send and receive data there. If you're talking about a little bit of data, it's not a big deal, but a lot of data. But what we're doing, it would be helpful to us if you had an availability zone here in LA. And so AWS wanting that zone business. They said, well, we can't put an availability zone there, but we can certainly put a data center there. And that's where the local zone is. They say they have 17 local zones. Those are key smaller data centers that don't have the complete menu of AWS's full services, but have have a smaller palette of deployment services that their customers find very meaningful. At a minimum, they have the basic of compute and the basic of storage in those local zones. And so they pick places like New York, Boston, Los Angeles, and you can look at the list of what the local zones are. Now, the wavelength zones, they are very, very interesting. You and I, all of us, we have a lot of people gathered together here, and we're all on the internet. However, as traffic travels over the internet, there are many, many servers or hops that data has to transition through from the time it leaves our machine to the time it gets to the destination. AWS
The professor just sent a message that his system crashed and he's giving us 15 minutes break.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh,
So by 3 p.m. we'll join him back.
all right, no problem.
Yeah, it's not compensate. So there's no critical stage for taking out system.
right now I'm on level 5.
And I want to go to my thing saying lab is there. I go to the chart lab ready.
I see my courses now. Student access for two different. Okay.
So I have a question like, when live is ready, what activities we can set up? I have my lab all set up. So I
You click on AWS. After details, you click on AWS, it takes you to the console.
It will take you to that console, my console, AWS my console. Then you click on whatever I want to do.
I'm not on the console.
You don't take it there.
You click there.
Welcome back, Professor.
Oh,
Sorry about that. My computer crashed. I figured we'd take a break. Now, let me answer quickly two questions. One question over there. Then I'll take a question. I'll go back to what we were discussing. So one question was asked is what is going to be provided, right? And the answer to that is you're going to have access. I can't say forever, but AWS pretty much just lets it roll. The access to the 6 courses that you have, will continue for an extended period of time. Okay, the access to those 6 courses that we've given you will continue for. Let's see, it looks like I'm logged out of everything here. So I'm logged out over here too. Yeah, looks like I have to log back in. Anyway, those 6 courses will be available to you for an extended period of time. Okay, and maybe forever. Okay. However, what won't be extended to you after the 29th of June, actually more like the first week in July, I think is when I scheduled for it to be turned off, is AWS picking up the cost of doing laboratory exercises, like the exercise I asked you to start here, or I asked you to click Start Lab, and then eventually click AWS and see am I still here? I'm still here. So that's good. Okay, so what this is the AWS console, and they have so many services they can't even list them all. They used to have there are 200 services. So now what they do is they list categories.
My thing saying lab is ready. So what should I do?
Okay, so let me ask a question. Let me ask a favor. We have 146 people on the line, so please don't say I don't mean to interrupt you and interrupt me. Okay, bear with me and trust me. I'm going to give you the directions. If it was 10 people, we could do it that way. But I have to ask the group not to do it that way. Okay, I'll come back to that. So there are all these different services. They have so many services they couldn't list them all. They used to list them all on one page. They don't anymore. So the first question I'm answering is what will you have access to? You'll have access to the 6 modules. Pretty much, I don't know, a long time. I can't say forever because they decide. So let's say for the foreseeable future, I guess that's the proper way to say it. And the foreseeable future, I'm talking about a long, long time. Now, for you, what you want to do is you want to get through this material and get certified. Okay, so if you're interested, say, hey, I'm taking this course because I want to career advancement. What you're looking at is if you haven't passed already, practitioner, setting yourself up for solutions architect. And then after solutions architect, you can think about developing, and then after developing, you can think about systems operation. But that's the sequence that you should be setting yourself up. You should be thinking about, am I going to have enough time to put not into the class that we're in today, our 3 hours together, but am I going to have enough time to really make a commitment? And I think most people are to just go through solutions cloud practitioners, 20 hours of instruction. So get through that as quickly as you can, get practitioner under your belt, and then after you get practitioner under your belt, get solutions architect. Now once you do that, I can't promise you anything. I can just tell you today. AWS sent me an email a few days ago. So as of today, I know there are jobs for people who have solutions architect. And the jobs that they tell me to be very flexible, they can be remote with them. Now, the requirement of this course is that one of the requirements of the course, that some folks may have be outside that requirement, is that you are able to be employed within the United States. Okay, so that means that they're not going to do an H-1B visa or anything like that. So as long as you have a status that allows a U.S. company to hire you, they can hire you. But number one requirement is they can hire you in the United States without doing anything extra like H-1B visa or any other immigration status work. That's one requirement. Number 1 requirement. Number 2 requirement, they're ready to hire people now if you have a solutions architect associate. So I think if I were a student, the thing I would focus on is getting that solutions architect associate. So if you already passed practitioner, then the next move is for you to jump into the solutions architect. That's why I gave everybody all 6 classes, because we often have people at different levels. So if you're ready to take solutions architect, or you want to maybe pass solutions architect, you want to work on sysops or a developer, I gave you or machine learning data analytics. I gave you the courses for those from day 1. Assuming that sometimes we have advanced people. Now, the way that I'm giving you this instruction, I want you to take great confidence in to know that we've had over 70 certifications passed by students doing it this way. And indeed, it wasn't until I personally took developing or developer and sysops that I ever used anything outside of the AWS training materials. I wanted to make sure I did it on purpose to make sure that if a person took and really wrapped their arms around the AWS materials, it gave them what they needed to pass solutions architect and pass cloud practitioner. Right? So I can tell you from experience and by my own validation, I made it a point not to look at anything but the materials provided by AWS Academy before I took practitioner, before I passed practitioner and solutions architect test, and I passed them both on the first attempt. Okay, so I just want to give you a little confidence in our method for doing this works. We've had over 70 certifications passed, and I can tell you that I personally validated that if all you study, not that you don't have to do it, you can study outside materials too. I suggest you do, but if the only thing that you study, well, these things I'm giving from AWS Academy, studying just that, you can pass both tests. Okay. Remember, I'm a 70-30 guy. I say that I'm 30% about passing tests, 70% about you being competent. That's why I don't really rush on this stuff. I want to talk to you about what the big picture is. I want to make sure you have a mental picture of what an availability zone is and so forth. Now, a person was asking after Start Lab, what are you going to do? You're going to open AWS, that will open another window for you. So you'll click on AWS, that's going to open another browser window for you, as I've just done now. Now, what I'd like to do is to go through this lab. We have together approximately another 50 minutes. Before I do that, though, I promise to stop according to the hour and take questions. Why don't I stop now? I'm going to go to Basecamp. You can put your questions in Basecamp and Campfire. So I'm looking at Campfire. So you'll see my screen. So I'm looking. Okay, it looks like someone is having trouble logging in. Is that true? Is someone having trouble logging into the? How would you know if you're not logged in? Okay, I see a few people typing. Let me wait for the questions to come up. Do I need to have 4 knowledge of Linux and Python to be a start developer? No. Those are helpful when you're developing along the way. Okay, the question about Kubernetes. Kubernetes allows you to run mobile containers, and there's a Kubernetes service within AWS. However, it's beyond the scope of our course. Okay, do we get practice questions? Yes, you can consider your practice questions. You can consider your practice questions your knowledge checks. Okay, that's what you get as practice questions. I also suggest, for the purpose of test preparation, Wiz Labs is very, very good. I like Wiz Labs a lot, and they're fairly cheap. I would suggest doing Wiz Labs. Okay, after the questions are over, I'm going to go to Wiz Labs very quickly, and I'm going to show it to you, then we're going to come back to the questions. Okay, now, there's a practice examination that typically costs something. We'll give you access to the AWS practice examination. Trust me, the real tests are always a lot harder than practice exams. After achieving solutions architect, could the path of solutions? No. I know you could. You could do that. That would be fine. You could do that. So this is what this question is about. I don't want to go to graphic, but you remember the graphic that showed that there was an associate level. We don't have any learning materials for professional level exams, so you'll be on your own with that. Okay, so however, we occasionally have vouchers. Those exams are $300. We occasionally have a professional level exam voucher. If you go through this and you and I think you're prepared to take, more than happy to give you a voucher for solutions architect professional. And then you can start to do that. That wouldn't be a bad thing to do. The 2 professional level exams are 1, solutions architect professional. And then, as you know, in this, our 2 courses here, one's about developing, the other is about systems operations. Well, they don't have a professional version of that. Those 2 courses, what they have is they have combined those 2 disciplines into a single professional exam called DevOps. Okay, so you take the DevOps professional exam, but they require that you pass. They require that you pass the associate level developer and the sysops exam before you can sit for the AWS DevOps professional. All right, let's see. Okay, after achieving solutions architect, what course relates more to programming? Okay, so the course that relates more to programming is developing. Okay, that course relates more to programming. My lab is ready when I click on AWS. My lab is ready when I click on AWS. That sounds like you have your pop-up blocker issue there. Okay, I have experience utilizing cloud service for 2 years, but have no certs. Can I get a cloud engineering role? I don't know. Ask the employer, but I'll tell you what, use this class to get the certs. You got the experience. Why don't you just get certified in this? And I think that would be very, very good. Okay, when we have an exam, you won't in the traditional sense. Maybe what you'll have is you'll have knowledge checks that are essentially exams throughout all of the 6 AWS courses. So at each module, at the end of the module is a knowledge check. Okay, great. Thank you very much for the recommendation there for another set of practice questions. Okay, so you have access. There are 2 types of vouchers. There's a voucher for social level exams. There are 3 types of vouchers. There's voucher for professional exams, which include the AWS Systems Architect Professional and the DevOps Professional. Also, all the specialty exams like networking, security, and in our case, machine learning and data analytics. Those are the same vouchers. So those are all $300 exams. So specialty exams and professional exams are $300. We don't have those. Every now and again we have a few of those. But we focus on the solutions architect exams, and we have 1 voucher for all 3 exams. So you don't have to say, hey, I want to take the solutions architect or the developing or developer or the systems operations. Just say, I want to take a social level exam. It's the same voucher. We use on any of those 3 tests. And then we have the foundational voucher, the cloud practitioner. So we have vouchers. We'll have vouchers typically available. Next week, we're going to ask who's like to make a commitment. You're like, on the system. I'm dead serious about this. I want to go there. Okay, and I plan to get it done as soon as possible. No later than December 22nd. Next week, I'll assign you a voucher for cloud practitioner. Okay, if you're personally make a commitment to make this happen, I will do that. Right? Okay, and our mechanism for doing that is since we have a lot of people that watch the course later, based on the video, watch this video later. But I'll do it by you sending me a ping in Basecamp. Okay, so now let's go back and answer all these questions and let's see. Okay, all right. What else do you have? Hoping to write my AWS associate exam. Okay, by the end of the month. Any advice? Yeah. So I would advise you to do things. I would advise you to go through everything in practice in the foundation, do all the labs, do everything in foundation, do everything in architecting. Okay, then I would suggest you do questions in Wiz Labs. Okay, that's what I would suggest. We'll look at Wiz Labs in a moment from in our conversation about about the testing and so forth. So let's see. Can you email the recording of everyday sessions, please? So what we're going to do is I'll set up something called class notes here in Basecamp, and we'll have the recordings of our classes there in class notes. What happens if you get a voucher and fail the exam? Just like the song, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. We'll give you multiple exam vouchers. Which then you pass the thing. So if you fail the test, because I let you take the test before you prepare. So then my sense of your level of preparation was off. So I'm going to do a reality check. I'm going to have you take a practice exam, and I'm going to take a look at the amount of time that you spend on materials and so forth. I'm going to make sure it looks like you're ready to do this. We might even have a conversation where I talk to you about AWS concepts and hear how get a sense of what you really know. Okay. All right. What entry level jobs are available after getting certifications? We really, you don't get the RISE team on that. When I talk about RISE, they have a replacement. But I'll tell you what, if you get solutions architect, I have somebody in AWS to send you to, and all they're looking for from you, if you come from us, they're looking for 2 things. You took this course. 1, you took this course. 2, you passed the solutions architect exam, and 3, you have at least an associate's degree. Okay, not necessarily from us. Okay. So if you come from us, okay, I took a course at Queensborough, and let's say you have an associate's degree from another school, that's fine. But they want you to have taken this AWS Academy course. Okay. So if you, and of course you have to be employed within the United States. I don't know Wiz Labs. I don't know what I use. I use Wiz Labs because they're expensive and I find them very, very good. Okay, so let's see now. We'll get a completion certificate after completing this course. Yes, you could. Here's what you can get after completing this course. At a minimum. You have access now to 6 AWS courses. AWS through Canvas will track your level of participation in those online courses. We know how much time you spend. They look at your time. I look at your time sometimes. See, well, this is a person spending an hour. I have to spend 40, 50 hours in this stuff. Or maybe I have to spend 100 hours. If the person spends right now, let's say 100 hours. I give a practice test, I get 95 on it. I think they're ready. Okay. Now, what AWS looks for is they look for you to have done all the videos. 1, completed all the videos. 2, there are quizzes that they call knowledge checks. You can take them multiple times. You have to get at least 80 on them. So you take them over and over again, you get 80 on all the knowledge checks. Okay. And 3, you have completed the guided labs, not the challenge labs, the guided labs in the module, in all the modules, the guided labs. We're going to do a guided lab in a moment. Okay. Now, when you do those 3 things, AWS sees it and they have it all automated. They're going to send you an email with a badge that you can put in your LinkedIn account. Our requirement of you to get a certificate of completion from this course. Okay. We'll give you a completion certificate if you do the following. At a minimum, finish one of these 6 courses. Your goal should be to finish more than just one. But let's say a person, I'm looking at that newest person that they don't know anything about cloud. Okay. And so I'm saying if they will just come and maybe complete the foundation course, maybe it's so tough on them, it took them all the way to the 29th of June to just get through the foundation course. But darn it, they did every video, they got 80% on every quiz, they did the labs, it took them forever, but they got it done. And AWS sent them a badge. I'm asking the requirement is you put the badge on a LinkedIn account. You send us a link to your LinkedIn account displaying your AWS badge. The badge they send you because you did those 3 things. You watched all the videos, you took all the tests, you got at least 80% on it, and you did all the labs. You don't have to do the labs perfectly. You just have to do them, okay? Right? And they'll send you a badge. Take a company called Credly. They'll send you a Credly badge. You put that badge on your LinkedIn account, you send us your LinkedIn account showing that badge. Plus 2 other things. There's a survey they ask you to take before you start the course, or the early stage, take it this week, okay? And then at the end of the course, there's an end of course survey. Because this is grant funded. The source of the grant, the Perkins folks, they would like us to have that type of information. So to give you a certificate of completion, very low bar. We ask that of these 6 courses that we give you, complete one of them, okay? From AWS's perspective, where AWS sends you a badge. Put the badge on your LinkedIn account and send us your LinkedIn account with the badge on it. And do the 2, this week, do the beginning, the beginning survey or whatever, and then do the essay survey. If you do those things, That's how you get your certificate. I spend a lot of time on that because sometimes that's confusing for folks. So I want to spend a lot of time on that. Entry level jobs after gains of okay. Zoom recording class, I'll post in the base camp. Yep, that's what I'll do. Can we get Canvas course for AWS solutions? No, we don't have access to that through AWS Academy. They don't have it at this time. How do we access the vouchers? That's on an individual basis between you and I come to the conclusion that you are prepared and ready to go. Okay. Is the class ongoing? Sort of. We keep Basecamp up so we can all stay in touch. You'll have continued access to all the modules. The only thing that you lose is AWS paying for your lab time. Okay. So the course isn't officially ongoing, but we'll all be around. I keep Basecamp up so you can stay in touch with your fellow students and with me. And so that you have access to all anything that we did during class. Right? Anything that we did during Basecamp, I'll leave it up there, like videos from these classes. And so in that way, it's ongoing, but not officially. Class ends on the 29th, but we leave the artifacts alive. Do we get vouchers for you? So yes, vouchers are for you associate level. What is the exact link? Somebody's doing the links. I have great things about this resource for AWS. Okay. A Cloud Guru. Let's talk about what A Cloud Guru is. It's very good. I believe they started maybe 2016, either 2016 or 2019. I forget which. Probably 2016, 2019. They started a couple guys in Australia. Okay. And let's see. I'll just do it this way. It's very quick. A Cloud Guru billion. A Cloud Guru billion. See if we find anything on this A Cloud. Okay. Yes. It was 6 years. It says Sam and Ryan. They built this company. Some couple Australian guys. They built this, and they were bought for $2 billion. What they do is they provide online training and exam preparation for all the major cloud companies. They started with AWS. In fact, they started the business on AWS. Now, I'd like you to write down another word that goes along with infrastructure, Docker, containers, and so forth. The word is serverless. The word is serverless. Type serverless, and next to it, the word write serverless, and the word next to it is Lambda. Okay, and then underneath it, write the words free tier, free tier. So at AWS, you're given, you're given access to the AWS cloud computing system. There's something called the console where you can get those 200 services. AWS has a very generous free tier. In other words, they'll let you use small amounts of their system, their 200 services, at no charge. Okay, these two Aussie brothers started their website, and in the first year, they never paid AWS a penny because they stayed within the free tier. They built their application serverless in Lambda. Okay, and they use Lambda and something like this now, API gateway. Lambda with the API gateway. Okay, and we'll talk about those things as we go along. There's so much to talk about. We're gonna have so much fun. And the best way to keep it in context is to do lab exercises together. So I'm giving you vocabulary. You're increasing your vocabulary. All right. So what they did was they stayed within the free tier of API gateway and Lambda. And for the first year, they launched a business, a web-based business, and paid AWS nothing. Okay, so they built a serverless app for their database tier. They used something called, you can write this down, DynamoDB. DynamoDB as an AWS database service. They used the API gateway. They used Lambda. They used S3 storage, and they made sure that they stayed within the free tier. And they had, I heard was nothing. They paid a few pennies here and there. I heard they paid nothing the first year. All right. Now they became so good at delivering cloud training that a training company just bought them for $2 billion. So they, like many other AWS companies that started on AWS. And what company started on AWS? Instagram. So Instagram, same thing. They had a concept. They built out the infrastructure on AWS. They sold it to Facebook for $1 billion. Another company that did something similar, GitHub. I think they sold that to Microsoft for $7.5 billion. Other startups on AWS, not that weren't necessarily acquired. Just think about startups that started by understanding the value of cloud infrastructure with the business model of how AWS prices the resources. You have Airbnb, whose market cap is approximately north of 90 billion. After a few years of business compared to Hilton Hotel chain that's been in business for 100 years, Hilton's worth about 25 to 30 billion. Airbnb, same business, hospitality, worth about 95 billion, built by exploiting the AWS cloud. But anyway, you take a business like Hilton, they have to be saying, we've been doing this for 100 years. How is it that somebody now in the business is worth 3 times beyond? What did they miss? Well, what they missed was cloud. So they, like every other legacy business, used to be cloud was mostly about startups. Now the legacy business is saying we have to constantly reinvent ourselves and make sure we're doing things the smartest way. And we need people who are very, 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 very good at cloud, or else we can end up like Hilton or worse. Okay, having someone dominate our marketplace because they have better understanding of cloud technology, application of cloud technology than we do. So that's what A Cloud Guru is. It was bought for $2 billion because the people who bought it understand that the importance of cloud training. So you're taking a cloud training course that would cost literally thousands of pounds if you were taking a course like this from many organizations that offer it. They give you high quality stuff, especially lab time too. Okay, I'm watching the clock. Let me go back to questions here because what I want to do is I want to answer as many questions. I think I'm almost forgetting questions I am. Okay, I'm gonna start. Let's see where I'm here. Questions. Okay, A Cloud Guru. Let's start with A Cloud Guru's Facebook link listed here. I don't use Facebook. Sorry. Instead, I recommend LinkedIn. That's the only social media. I mean, that's the only job for me. So that's the personal thing. What do you think is the best? I'm actually going to reactivate my Facebook account. There's a friend of mine I want to see. He's doing a book about his life. He's a relatively famous entertainer, and he's doing a book about his life for his grandkids, and he has it on Facebook, and it's all in rhyme. So the only place I can see it on Facebook. So a bachelor's degree is what's required. AWS will waive that when they deal with police officers. We have such a good relationship with them. So if I'm sending them somebody, they'll take them an associate. Yes, but get certified. Will get certified. You want to do that? Okay. Sure. Our friends with an author grid. Okay. There's an AWS 10, by the way. Are those courses that you're speaking of? The courses I'm talking about are 6 courses that contain the modules. So you have a course called Foundation that's aligned with the Cloud Practitioner exam. You have associate level courses that are aligned with 3 associate level exams. That would be Solutions Architect Associate, Developer Associate, and System Operations Associate, System Associate. Then you have 2 specialty exams where we have courses aligned with those. That would be Data Analytics and Machine Learning. Okay, I'll make sure that somebody gets you the survey link. We'll make sure that happens. I would not start with CloudFront and then move. Marcus, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Marcus says I would start with Cloud. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, do CloudFront. You're absolutely right. I agree 100%. Do the Solutions Architect. Use the Foundation stuff. There's some cool labs in there. We're going to do a lab in just a minute. I want to spend the last 30 minutes of us actually working on lab exercise for sure. Okay, I'll check personal chat. I'll check personal chat after the class is over. We have about 30 minutes left. What course relates more to programming? I know Python. What course relates more to programming? I know C++, Python, starting web dev and HTML. The best thing I can tell you is forget about all that. Forget about C++. Forget about Python. Forget about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, here's why I'm saying that. You have a unique period of time right now between now and the end of June. Focus on getting good at cloud. Because at the end of the day, your C++, your Python, and all this other stuff has to live somewhere. And that's going to be, it has to live on infrastructure someplace. And so, and I'm glad you brought this up because this we're going to do something just before I roll into us doing the lab. Okay. There's a video that I'll put in chat. I gotta find the video and I'll put a link to it in chat. Let's see. Can I get YouTube here? See how I get YouTube. Here's YouTube. Let's put Lego Reinvent 2020 AWS. Let's do this real quick. We'll do this real quick. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to take you to a point in this. Okay. Let me know in chat what you're coming through. The point I'm going to take you to, we're going to spend, I'm going to let start about here. Okay. Let me know if you get the audio. Okay. Is the audio coming through on this video? Let me know. Can you hear this? Okay, good. All right.
Just to show that serverless work for us. 10 months later, we then matched our existing capabilities with a completely serverless platform that immediately started handling the same level of traffic and transactions as our existing platform. We then immediately started exceeding those rates of transactions and traffic and setting new records every few months. We started off this year with an ambitious roadmap, a growing team, and a platform that was only a couple of months old. And then the question became, could we deliver on that ambitious roadmap with twice the number of engineers, all on board remotely, and keep the platform stable, all while handling high season level of traffic? The answer was yes. And not only have we doubled the number of services in production, we managed to do so while handling increasingly busy sales periods. To put some numbers up to the growth we experienced in the past year and a half, we now have 3 times the number of engineers in the team, and we've since launched another 36 server services, pushing the number of standard functions in production over 260. The growing team meant that we have to distribute many tasks previously held centrally by an infrastructure team. So automation has been key to supporting the ever-growing number of squad and application engineers to get their services and features into production, not only at their own pace, but safely. We moved to a self-service model where possible. For example, creating a script that creates standard integration and deployment pipelines for any new service. The ultimate goal is to develop our application engineers into DevOps engineers who own and operate their services in production. One of our steps towards that goal was to...
Okay, so what she's talking about, this is why I made the comment. This is why I made the comment about, and I just clarification in a class that relates to programming. In this series of classes, that would be the development, but you need the whole package. So they want to move from an application developer to a DevOps person. And I think this is a major trend throughout the industry. And so I would start, if you don't know anything about cloud, I think that you really want to come up to speed on cloud. Because where you want to go is understanding things like in the AWS world, things like Amplify. Okay, so this is where you would use your knowledge of web development as well as cloud Okay, so I think that what you want to do is to spend the time between now and June really learning cloud, and then understand how does cloud and the development languages, how does it all fit together. Okay, let's play this video.
AWS Amplify is a set tool that brings the power of AWS to front-end web and mobile developers. With Amplify, you can enable data storage, authentication, file storage, host your app, or even add AI or ML to your front-end web or mobile application. Amplify supports iOS, Android, Flutter, React Native, or web development, and integrates with popular JavaScript frameworks like Vue, React, and Next.js. You can use only the tools you need in an existing app, or use them all together in one. Build your app's backend. You can use Amplify to develop your app's backend resources. Instead of needing to research individual AWS services, you can enact common use cases in a few clicks or a few commands. Let's say you want to add data to a new project. Amplify Studio enables you to configure backend data for your application in clicks. You can also configure authentication in Amplify Studio. If you're more comfortable using the command line interface, you can also start from there. Either way, your workflow is forward and backwards compatible. AWS Amplify scales with you. Unlike traditional backend as a service offerings, AWS Amplify allows developers to leverage the breadth of AWS services and tools as their apps evolve. When you build your app backend with Amplify, it automatically generates the underlying business logic and deployment code so that developers can extend their app with custom business logic. Build and connect your front-end UI. With AWS Amplify Studio's visual development environment, you can easily build an app backend, add front-end UI, and bind the two together in clicks. Instead of writing front-end component code from scratch, you can quickly choose from dozens of UI components for popular features, such as registration forms, lists, buttons, and news feeds. These UI components are also available within Figma, so your UX designer can customize them, and they can be imported into Studio as clean React code. Whether you're creating a new application or connecting to an existing AWS project, you can use Amplify libraries to integrate AWS resources into your front-end. These libraries reduce the lines of code you need to write.
Okay, so there's some, you cannot stand alone with just, and I understand what class, a good start is going to be what you do here in developing, but there's a lot of stuff that you need to do beyond that. So you need to learn cloud first, because cloud is going to affect everything. Then I suggest that you need to learn JavaScript frameworks. Okay, one of the most popular ones is React. My favorite one that you didn't mention is Angular. Okay, AWS supports Angular, Amplify supports Angular. So I think if you're doing web stuff, I think you need to be very, very, very good with, okay, so the reason I say Node.js, let's talk about where Node.js fits into this. So let's do this. Let me put a pin in that question. I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes of class talking about Node.js. Let's get you started in this laboratory exercise. Let's do this. We'll cover a couple things, what we're going to do with this lab first, and then I'll come back to that, okay? So I will set an alarm for 3:55. Set an alarm for 3:55.
I turned on your 3:55 alarm.
Okay, so I have an alarm for 3:55. I'll spend the last 5 minutes talking about Node.js. So here we're talking about, after 6 years, they got a $2 billion payday. Here we're talking about, you saw a picture of a data center, and you're about to work in the data center. So here you have your lab up and running. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's go to our lab and see what it's about. So what you're actually going to do, and the first time I did this, it was so exciting, because what you're doing is you're actually using facilities in Virginia. You are in the process of launching a set of computers in Virginia. And here, the end result of what you're building is this today. Let's talk about this picture. This picture is where you end up. And here we're going to start getting into some technical terms. And Professor Brian is going to do on Wednesday, he's going to do the security management. That would be the identity and access management laboratory with you. I will do this lab. We'll do this lab again together since we're not spending as much time on it. Now, today, I expected today to be what the day was because getting everybody up to speed, getting us all together, working through issues and so forth. Okay, most of our classes, what we'll do will be 100% doing lab time and questions. That's all I want to do. And I personally was very comfortable with how we did the questions with Basecamp. And hopefully everybody's comfortable with that. I'll ask your opinion on that next week. You can let me know if we can make a modification on that. But this is the end architecture here that we're going for now. Let's take a look at how long this lab should take. This is a 30-minute lab. But for me, we can spend a lot more time. Because remember, I'm interested in becoming competent. And that's going to take time if you're spending time. So right now, you know what an availability zone is. You know, it's one of those buildings that have 50 to 70,000 bare metal servers in them and countless more virtualized servers. Now, as a customer of AWS, the way AWS organizes their resources is they have regions around the company. Regions around the world. And so right now, if we were to go back to our lab, here, I'll just go here. You see, along the top lines of services and then search and then a couple of other things. And then it says M. Virginia. Okay, North Virginia, US East 1. This is so powerful. You can decide where you want to work once you're on console lab. But the power of AWS is all of a sudden, you can decide where in the world you're going to put your compute and storage resources. How cool is that? With one click, you could be building your infrastructure in Mumbai, India, or Osaka, or Seoul, Korea, or Singapore, or Sydney, or Frankfurt, or London, or Milan. Is that exciting or what? That's exciting, right? So these are different regions. So what is a region? A region is 2 or more availability zones. That's why I showed you the picture. So in your architecture, going back to our lab, a key concept of what cloud gives you is the ability to use different buildings. So, we had the World Trade Center disaster many years ago when the Trade Center was destroyed. Imagine if you were a business and all your computers were there, you had a problem. So the notion of geographical diversity, and that's something as bad as that. It could be a flood or a huge weather interruption or something. So the concept in a region is they have 6 availability zones, which are essentially those buildings like what we're looking at. And what they do is they separate them by 50 to 100 miles. They make sure that they're not on the same floodplain. They make sure that they're using different infrastructure for their electricity, different infrastructure for their connectivity to the internet backbone and so forth. So the idea is that if one availability goes down, the other availability zone probably isn't going to go down. So in this lab, what we're going to do is we're not going to really have time to go through a lot of this. We'll go through it in detail because these labs are so well written. You can just go step by step, and maybe you want to do that. I highly encourage you to do that. And go step by step. But when I do the labs with you, it's not to do just the steps that you see here, but it's to talk to you about the implications of what you're looking at. So the idea here is that you're going to have a website that's available in 2 different availability zones. So you're going to have servers with identical code running in 2 different buildings separated by many miles, 50 to 180 more miles. Okay, and that's what we see. Now you see the term VPC. That stands for Virtual Private Cloud. Now, when we talk about connecting devices together, the model we use is something called an IP address, so that each device has a unique IP address. So your VPC, it says 10.0.0.0/16. That's a type of notation called CIDR. Okay, you can write that down, CIDR. That stands for classless interdomain routing. Okay, so it's a way of easily defining a block of contiguous IP addresses. So what your VPC is, your virtual private cloud, is a contiguous set of IP addresses. The other thing you see here is the word subnet. You see it 4 times. It says public subnet 1, public subnet 2, and then private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. Subnets are contiguous subsets of your IP address range of your VPC. So let's say you had 10,000, and just to make the numbers easy, let's say your IP addresses, this isn't exactly how it would be, but to simplify, let's say your IP addresses went from 0 to 10,000. Okay, so you have every IP address between 0 and 10,000. You can take contiguous blocks and define them within that 0 to 10,000 IP addresses that you have, and assign those contiguous blocks to subnets. So all a subnet is a subset of the larger network, the larger VPC. Okay, and again, it's using the CIDR notation to define what the IP addresses are. So here you have 4 subnets, 2 private, 2 public. The difference between a private subnet and a public subnet is that a private subnet has no direct route to the public internet. A public subnet has a direct route to the public internet. Now, in this exercise, let me go back to this. Build your VPC and launch web server. In this lab, you will use the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud to create your own VPC and add additional components to produce a customized network. You also create security rules for your EC2 instance. And then, okay, so what is an EC2 instance? So let's talk about that. So first off, let's start with the word instance. Earlier, we were talking about the hypervisor, and I keyed on the word hypervisor because I talked to you about two ways of dividing up bare metal. In one way, you use the hypervisor to divide up and virtualize the assets of the hardware, the memory, the CPUs, etc. Then I contrasted that with the container, where I said you're not using a hypervisor because you're not virtualizing the hardware. You're loading an operating system on the hardware like Windows or Linux, and then you're going to turn that into little Windows servers if it's a Windows system or Linux servers. We call those containers, and they operate onto themselves. And by the way, there are several advantages and disadvantages to both. One of the advantages to using containers is that it's faster to bring them up and to take them down. Okay? Containers come up very, very fast, a second or less. Whereas bring up an entire virtual server several seconds to more like several minutes. Okay? All right. So again, we'll spend a lot of time on this. And my purpose in labs is not doing labs. I'm completing labs, so we're going to complete every lab. My purpose as we do the labs is to talk you through the labs and to talk you through the concepts to make sure everybody understands the concepts. Okay? Now, for some of my more advanced students, if my case, since I have very advanced students and students that aren't advanced, if you're very advanced students and you're getting bored because I'm going into basics that you know very, very well, you ping me a private message and I will set up a different course of study for you. Okay? Other folks may be advanced and say, no, I'm okay with just sitting for this. It's getting me to think. I'm getting something out of this. So if you're advanced and you feel like this is a waste of your time, ping me. I will do something on an individual basis for you. Okay? Otherwise, hopefully that, if you don't ping me because you're enjoying this and it's helpful. What I'm saying here, the difference between a public and a private subnet is a public subnet has a way to get to the internet. We call that a route to get to the internet. Okay. And so we'll pick up on this lab. Actually, we'll start from scratch again. We'll start from scratch again. That's why I love talking about Node.js. First, let me define Node.js and talk about the big picture for the folks that perhaps aren't up to speed on Node.js yet. So what the JS and Node.js stands for is JavaScript. Okay, let's do a little search here. Okay, how widely used is JavaScript? Java, SCRIPT. How widely used is JavaScript? Okay, so this says here right here. JavaScript is the most widely used computer programming language in the world. According to everybody, red mark, what that is. So this is JavaScript and Python are ruling the world right now. Let's talk about JavaScript. Now, when you develop a web application, okay, we all use websites. We all use something that's running in a browser. Most of the time, we don't really think a lot about what that all entails. I'm going to take you to another course that I teach that has some graphics in it that I think will be helpful to us. This discussion about JavaScript with Node.js. Okay. I gotta watch my time here. Okay, so I'm taking 718, 2022. Am I going there? We there? Okay. Looks like my base camp is crashed. Come back, open up again. Okay, 718, 2022. That's my class notes. By the way, this is what I'm going to do for you. Set up class notes. So web application hosting. Okay, this is an example of your typical infrastructure. Web application hosting. You'll see some words here, and this is good. This fits our discussion in a way. You see A and B. Those are availability zones. You see this thing called autoscaling. We didn't get into this, but what you can do, and one of the key things that happen, I talked about infrastructure as code and so forth. Well, a subset of that infrastructure as code is that you can monitor the amount of traffic that's coming into your site, and you can increase and decrease your resources based on that traffic. That's called autoscaling, and you see the word autoscaling written there. Now, what we have here is we have three tiers. We have a web tier, we have an application tier, we have a database tier. Now, someone recently they asked a question about the version C++, Python, and so forth. There are a lot of programming languages that you can write this application tier in. But someone said, you know what? Wouldn't it be great? Typically, in the browser, you write code that runs in the browser that goes in JavaScript. JavaScript is the most prevalent language on the planet. Wouldn't it be great if the code that's running in my browser and the code that's running on my application server is in the same language so that my developers don't have to know two different programming languages? Now, back around 2010, something very interesting happened. Back around 2010, we had Angular. Okay, so JavaScript frameworks, 2021. Okay, I should have 2022. What's 2022? Let's see what's 2022. Okay, JavaScript, so that's JavaScript framework. So this is going to be an interesting discussion about JavaScript frameworks. The first JavaScript framework was created by Google. It was AngularJS, followed soon by React, created by Facebook. But what that gave rise to when Angular came out was this whole thing called the mean stack. Okay, the mean stack. What the mean stack is about is the M stands for MongoDB. That is a key value pair database. Okay, an example of that would be JSON. I know I'm going fast, but it's recorded. So this whole notion of JSON, key value pair. Here's an example of a JSON document. Right here, the key, first name, the value John, the key, last name, the value Smith. We call that a key value pair, as opposed to a relational database, which is something we'll get into this. We'll actually do some things with relational databases in this course, but it's not a conversation now. I'm just explaining to you what MongoDB, what mean stack is. So the M was for MongoDB, a way of storing information. The A was for Angular, a JavaScript framework, where you could use JavaScript to do a lot of your logic in the browser. And then finally on the back end, going back to that image I just showed you here. This image here, okay? This image here, okay? Running on the back end, they said we could use these two things, ExpressJS and Node.js. So Node.js allows you to run the JavaScript that used to run only in your browser as your rear end logic. Okay. Now, if we go and take a look at this article, top 5 development stacks. This is a little article that was published on January 21, 2022. And I'm going to dismiss class now, but I'm going to continue the concept. It's 4 o'clock, class is dismissed. Please tune in to Professor Brian. Hopefully, I apologize. I profusely apologize for the technical issues that I caused today. And I'll work every class. I get in our class better with both the handling questions. Maybe we need to do some moderating thing. We'll see what we need to do. So I'll work on improving on the context of our class. Next. I'll share my lessons learned today with Professor Brian, and we'll move forward. Okay, that's the class dismissed. I'm going to continue the concept. So the quick answer is Node.js is a mechanism by which you write your server encode, the stuff that needs to exist here at your application layer. You're going to write the application server code. In the past, before Node.js, this was written in something else. The Python didn't exist back then, so we're going to maybe C++, Java, or Ruby on Rails, or LAMP. Now, I was about to show you this. I just mentioned Ruby on Rails and LAMP. There's 5 top technologies. I didn't talk about. I just want to cover LAMP and Ruby on Rails. So LAMP has been pretty big. There's a scripting language called PHP, and we're going to use that in our lab. By the way, in this lab, we'll be doing a LAMP stack website. That's what we're going to do. I'll do that together next week. An alternative to LAMP, similar to LAMP, is something called Ruby on Rails. Very, very similar to LAMP. Now, those are 2 of the 5. Here, the other 3 remaining have to do with this concept of the mean stack, MongoDB, ExpressJS, Angular, Node. Because you have the mean stack, and then folks say, Angular is wonderful, but I like Facebook's React, so then the MERN stack came up. And I'm not sure how this MEV, I mean, that's Mevin, I don't know, maybe that's how it's pronounced. So the difference between Mevin, it's called Mevin, MERN, and mean being the first one, is the fact that it's using AngularJS, or here we're using AngularJS, so maybe use Angular. Now, since class is over, I'm going to delve into some things that we normally wouldn't cover, because I finished the thought. Okay, in around 2010, Google released Angular, and it became super hip. They released something called AngularJS. And I'm going to do this more toward the techies here. Back then, the big JavaScript library would be jQuery. AngularJS gave an alternative to jQuery, where you could all of a sudden, the whole concept of a JavaScript framework is to allow you to essentially bring logic into your HTML. So now you're doing logic in your HTML. So for example, what I'm talking about here is, if we go to angular.io/start. Okay? If I go to angular.io/start, let's take a look at this code. Okay, so let's take a look at this code. So this is HTML here we're looking at, except there's a difference. Let's look at that div. The div says ng4 equals let product of products. Let product of products. So what you have going on here, for those of you who know HTML, what you have going on here that's different is by adding Angular, it gave you a syntactical way to do logic within your HTML that simplified your programming for maintainability and so forth and design. It also gave you a method of doing something called a component, where you could combine into one entity, called component, your HTML, your JavaScript, and your CSS. So now you have living in one entity, the content in HTML is found in CSS, and any client side run the browser logic. Okay. What they then did that sort of gave Facebook an advantage was they moved away from JavaScript. They said JavaScript isn't the future. The future is TypeScript. I think it's CodeLab.fun. I think this is right. Yeah, CodeLab.fun. So this became a huge leap many years ago, let's say 5 years ago. They lost a lot of people that can't deal with TypeScript. TypeScript is a Microsoft technology that uses a more advanced, mature version of JavaScript. Okay?
So there's different standards for JavaScript. The different standards for JavaScript. Most browsers support a very unsophisticated version of JavaScript. So the idea, and Microsoft created TypeScript, which is backwardly compatible with JavaScript, and solved a lot of issues that made it a more viable and desirable language for large systems to be built with. It filled some of the holes. It filled some of the holes that were in. A lot of holes that were in JavaScript. You might want to take a look at this page, code.fun, okay? So anyway, the point of all this and Node.js is all of a sudden you can do all your logic using the same syntax and the same programming language that you're familiar with on your backend. And the first major trend in that was the main stack that was established with AngularJS back in 2010. Fast forward to today, a lot of stuff is being written in Node. And one of the reasons why I said, kind of ignore what's going on the outside, focus on cloud, is what you want to think about is using Node.js and Lambda. So if I put Node, Lambda, and SAM together, what do we get? We get working with Lambda, and Lambda layers AWS's serverless application. I know what the M stands for. Okay, SAM is a serverless application model. And now what Lambda does is in the previous picture or image I showed you here, you were still doing this. You were managing web servers, you were managing application servers, and you weren't managing a database server. You were using MongoDB, a NoSQL database with JSON documents. Okay, so to give the terminology, I'm doing this a little bit high level for folks that I don't know. I said I was going to simplify Node.js, and now I'm making it more technical than it needs to be. Okay, so what you're giving up here, what you're doing here, is saying, yeah, I'm going to do let's just say the means that I'm going to run Angular in my browser. I'm going to run Express.js and Node.js on my server tier, my backend servers. Okay, and we get rid of my SQL database and replace it with a NoSQL database using key value pairs. That's your mean stack. But you can take it a step further. We can go serverless. Okay, so here's an example of serverless. Let me open up another course. ET 720.
I'm sorry, just a quick clarification. So you're saying that when we go for it, you said the one keyword that I just heard is no relational database, like MongoDB. So here you're
no, first off, MongoDB is not a relational database. So a relational database has tables that are somehow related with tables that have relations between each table somehow. Have you worked with relational databases before?
So yes, when I was taught in Ruby on Rails backend, then the database is
and Postgres and MySQL Query. Instead of that, okay, so for example, the architecture I just showed you that had a relational database on the end, this one right here, I want to go back. Okay, so this architecture that we were looking at just now, this architecture would be very much what you would do with Ruby on Rails. Okay, so you would have a SQL database. Yes, a SQL database back there. Now, Amazon, as a retailer, discovered they were paying Oracle a lot of money for the relational database. They discovered that 70% of the information that they stored could be stored in a key value store, not a relational store. So they didn't need the relational database. And they created a service called DynamoDB, which is very similar to MongoDB. So most people find that their daily needs, instead of using related tables, they can just store key value pairs. Similar to the JSON document that I showed you a moment ago, and I'll go back to it. I showed you JSON documents here. This is the description of a person. First name, key value. The key is first name, value son. The key is last name, value Smith. The key is alive, the value is a Boolean true. That's also the This is an example of, as I said here, a JSON representation of a person. Okay? So what MongoDB is about storing JSON documents. You can architect a system where you replace your relational approach, having every table that are related by some keys on each table with an approach where you're using key value pairs. Okay? There's a video done in 2016 by Lyft. And I'll put that video in the chat. Okay? And in that video, they talk about how they went to DynamoDB so they wouldn't have to go through the maintenance that's normally associated with a relational database. So a lot of businesses figure out, hey, I can use DynamoDB as a service, and it's scale. See, Amazon is responsible for making sure that whether you have one hit or Gazillion hits, that if you're using a service like DynamoDB for data storage, or like Lambda to do serverless compute, that your application automatically scales, or if you're requesting data from their object storage, which is called Amazon S3. So we're talking about the similarity of cloud companies. Every cloud company is going to have some type of object storage where you store big little things. There's object, not block. We'll talk about the difference between object storage and block storage at another time. That's something we'll take foundation, by the way. But so when I actually did my experience, you were using SQL. You were using SQL, in fact, but an approach to using SQL and a relational database using key value pairs. So people started building this thing using this mean approach where they were using Node.js, talking to MongoDB as a no-relational database using key value pairs as opposed to relational tables. Okay? And because a lot of data doesn't need to be in SQL in a relational model, it can be in key value pairs. And the advantage of using a NoSQL database is that you're very flexible on your schema. Okay? And you can use a NoSQL database with Ruby on Rails. I wrote a Ruby on Rails application where the things that you would want a relational database for, things like authentication, I used SQL database. It was something like YouTube where I made for a customer. And the reason I used NoSQL is because SQL didn't know what they wanted. So I knew that the information that they had stored for every video was going to change, which would potentially be different for different types of videos. So if I did have a relational model, it's a nightmare changing your schema. If you do that in a NoSQL or key value pair scenario using MongoDB or DynamoDB, changing your schema is not an issue. And so you're very, very flexible.
Professor, one clarification. You said you used auth and you used non-relational database. So where did you store in that authentication? How did you know
authentication was done through SQL database? And then remember, the NoSQL database is a service, so I was making calls to an AWS service. Okay, MongoDB is a service. I use DynamoDB, AWS's NoSQL database. I'm just making calls to the service. So go back here and you can find articles on using DynamoDB with Rails. Okay, using DynamoDB. Okay, so you can go through and find articles on doing that. Okay, but that's what I do. I use DynamoDB. There's a AWS Ruby on Rails API. Okay, so there's an application programming interface. There's an application programming interface that you can find. I'm not sure where it is. There's an application programming interface that you can find that will give you all the calls that you would need to know. Here's the API reference. This is the API reference. So here's the AWS SDK for Ruby. So if I came down here to DynamoDB, you go through this and figure out how to write your stuff. So you go through all the API calls, figure out how you're doing, what you need to do. Storage your information out of DynamoDB in Ruby, and you put this in your Rails application. And you might want to take a look at some things. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Thank you. It's mind blowing. But redirecting us back to the original question that I initially asked. Do you know why you chose Next over not Node.js or anything else like you mentioned? React, which is now like really popular more than React.
Angular?
Yeah. Angular and React. React is becoming more popular, I think. That's what they're suggesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is. And I think the reason is that it's easier to learn. So that's what most people say that React is a little bit easier to learn. And a lot of times people end up having to use because it doesn't have all the functionality of Angular. And the learning curve of Angular is traditionally been booked on it, it's hard to learn Angular. But normally with React, you have to use Redux at some point.
Yep,
Okay.
React goes hand in hand.
Exactly. So you don't have to do that in Angular. The functionality that you're getting when you add Redux to React is automatically built into Angular. So as an instructor, what I normally do in my classes is that I teach Angular and TypeScript. Because TypeScript is incredibly useful. Okay? Especially today because there's something called the AWS CDK. So AWS CDK TypeScript. I think that really cool languages to learn along with here's a blog post. Okay, building scalable graph. Anybody know what GraphQL is?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So
No.
GraphQL.
Graph very
No, I do not know.
Okay, so GraphQL is that's a Facebook technology that's very, very good that allows you to make more efficient calls for data, but you don't have to depend on what's been made available in the API. So it's designed to allow you to request from the API specifically the things that you want. Okay, so anyway, there's a thing called the CDK, and the CDK has become huge. I'll get you just a quick YouTube video on CDK. What the CDK does, I mentioned to you that when your lab was starting, it was running a CloudFormation template. Okay, that CloudFormation template. Let's say that CloudFormation template has 1,000 lines in it. AWS was doing some internal development and worked with some other partners. And they said, you know what? Instead of writing these things in JSON or YAML, which is a configuration language, why can't we write it in a programming language? So they started with TypeScript. Now they have it in Python, Go. They try to get most major languages. This goes back to our discussion about infrastructure as code. So all of a sudden, with this thing called CDK, you can write in a language that you're probably more familiar with, like TypeScript or Python or something, Go, JavaScript. You can define your infrastructure in a modern programming language. And that brings us more to I showed you the thing with Lego, and she was talking about they want to turn application engineers into DevOps engineers. And then this whole notion that all of a sudden, with things like the CDK, Cloud Development Kit, you can define your infrastructure so that you write, let's say TypeScript, it could be any modern language, Python, Go, TypeScript, JavaScript, they support all of those. So as an application developer, hopefully you can pick the same language that you're developing your application in to write your infrastructure. And when you do that, you get someplace between 10% to 80% less lines of code than if you wrote your infrastructure definition in JSON or YAML. Now there are two, in AWS, your infrastructure is typically done, the internal AWS product for doing infrastructure is called CloudFormation. There's a company, HashiCorp, that has something called Terraform. So what HashiCorp has done, they have adopted AWS's CDK, and now all of a sudden, you can describe your infrastructure in one of these programming languages. Here they're talking about TypeScript, Python, Java, C# or Go, okay? And then it will automatically create a Terraform implementation that can then be run pretty much in any cloud provider, including AWS. Okay, so the CDK concept is becoming very, very, very popular. I got into saying talking about this because I explained why I do Angular. One of the reasons is TypeScript dependent. Okay, it's TypeScript dependent. And we talked about the question was why did React become so popular? Because Angular became harder, and people could get the results they needed faster and easier using React. And it's become, but you know, Angular has a lot of holding power in the market as well. So I teach Angular because I really like TypeScript too, and I see a lot of reasons to know TypeScript. One of them is if I were in the developing world. Now remember something, I'm not an academic. Okay, I'm not a developer anymore. I haven't been a developer for over 20 years. I was a developer 20 years ago. Then I was a manager for a long time, which means I keep up too much with technology. Now I'm fairly technologically competent, but I don't want you taking career choices from me. Take career ideas from me, and then you go validate them as to whether it's a good idea for you. Okay. So remember, I'm not in the field. You need to have friends that are in the field, and many of you are in the field. So I don't pretend to be anything more than an academic that's going to try and help you pass some exams and become competent in cloud. All right, so I'm big on Angular because it's a TypeScript. I think that's a very good thing, especially since if you're good at TypeScript, maybe what you're going to make a decision to do. So CDK work that you can either build Terraform stuff or you can build your AWS native CloudFormation from your CDKs. Now, a great example of something I do in some of our courses with an AWS CDK is, let's see, AWS CDK Angular React. So what do we get? I put videos. So I get what I'm looking for. So yeah, this one. This guy's fabulous, gentlemen. Absolutely fabulous. Let's get past this ad.
Whether you're building dynamic network models or forecasting real-world behavior, Neo4j is your graph algorithm.
Welcome to Deconstructing CDK Patterns. And today what we're going to be talking about is how do you deploy an Angular or React website into AWS using S3 as your storage medium. So you can see the technologies we will be talking about on the bottom are AWS Config Manager, Amazon S3, Angular, React, Amazon Route 53, Amazon CloudFront, and of course AWS CDK. If you want to deploy a website onto AWS, this is pretty much what your production architecture is going to look like. You start from the right-hand side where you have it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to have to jump here. So what he's about to say is if you master the CDK, you don't know, in this case, he'll give you a code for this. This gentleman here is at Liberty Mutual. He's a fabulous guy. His name is Matt, if I recall. He did a really nice presentation at this year's Amazon conference called reInvent. So if you look up Liberty Mutual, reInvent, and Vogels, as in word of Vogels, you'll see a talk that he gave on what they're doing at Liberty Mutual. But what he's making available here is with 5 lines of code, let's say about 5 lines of code, because it's all just calling CDK stuff. It'll automatically build a production and development environments for doing either an Angular or React website, including requesting an SSL TLS certificate, attaching it. So you give it the domain name, go ahead and get a certificate, make everything nice, and host this thing securely as a static website in object storage, which is Amazon S3, 5 lines of code. Okay, so that's the power of CDK, and that's something I think that's very. That's why I said to the individual that was asking about programming languages, I say, yeah, we're going to do that in developing, but the stuff that we're going to do developing is related to what you're going to see on the exam. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that you want to get involved with, and that's where Node.js came up with. And so with Node.js, so if you were developing something like this, and you needed to say, great, I have so much stuff working with Angular, right, or with React, but on the back end, I need there's something that just has to go on the back end. Well, the solution would be to run Node.js, not on a server, not on what we have in this picture. If we would run Node.js, we would run it on servers where we're actually configuring servers with Express and Node. You don't do that. What you do is you run it in Lambda serverlessly, which is something we'll get into this course. Now, I have to leave immediately, but please put any questions in on Basecamp. Okay, ping me directly so I get them. If you put in the chat, I can lose them. You ping me directly. I'll answer any questions that you have. And thank you so very, very much for your time and attention. At this point, I'm going to need to end our conference and look forward to us spending time. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen in the coming weeks is you're going to spend a lot of time in the very organized learning modules that Amazon has. And then what we're going to talk about in our class is we're going to do labs, but we're also going to talk about the implications of what we're seeing in the labs and look at it from a much bigger picture. I found that to be very, very helpful for our students. Is we use the labs as an enrichment for what they're studying on their own. So thank you for your time and attention. It's been great spending the afternoon with you. Have a great time with Professor Brian. We'll make sure that we have clear communications what the link is for Professor Brian's class. It's probably the link I tried to use today, by the way. And look forward to seeing you next Monday. Be well, everyone.